Can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right. Let me just wait for few more minutes. Probably in the next 3 minutes. Uh, by this 2-7. Yeah, I guess for those of us in Nigeria, it should be uh, 7 minutes after 8. So let's just wait a couple of minutes, probably the next 3 minutes for us to start. Yeah, I'm good. Doing well. I'm just coming back from work, not so long from, yeah. You can do it by probably telling us where you are joining us from. Though, I mean, I'm thinking majority of us may be in Nigeria, but can tell us the states you are in. If you're in Nigeria or if you're outside Nigeria, can also let us know so that, you know, kind of get to know where we are joining in from. Okay, Inde from New Jersey, Samuel from Benin, Nita, Nigeria, Emerenine Wore, Oladu Siajala from Nigeria. Sorry if I didn't mention your name correctly. Uh, Achiroma Medugri, Abeyi, PH, Precious Lagos, Miracle Abuja, Eke Dozie, Zamfara, Nigeria, Mary Jane, Anambra, Ife Toluwashe from Bauchi, Osinachi Imo, Miracle PH, Ozioma Calabar, David Owerri. All right, I want to welcome every one of us to this official our first meeting, and uh, we are CMDA, just like we saw from the group. That's a Christian Medical and Dental Association, and we represent the American slash Caribbean. Okay, in CMDA, it's not just in Nigeria. Outside Nigeria, there is also CMDA. So wherever you find yourself, if you're in the UK, there is CMDA there. If you're in Australia, there is CMDA there. If you end up coming to US, Canada, we also have CMDA, and you are really quite very active. All right. And the idea behind this whole mentorship was the fact that we kind of saw a gap when it comes to the healthcare sector under IMGs in Nigeria, or not just Nigeria, Africa in general. Most times from personal experience, I discovered that our counterparts that are from India, some of these Asian countries, Pakistan, Egypt, and some of these countries, you get to see a whole lot of them here in America and also in Canada. And the reason why is because they kind of have a very big community where they kind of mentor the younger doctors, medical students. I mean, getting them to understand some of the things they need to know when it comes to the whole USMLE stuff. They make it easier for their colleagues, their junior ones, and that's why most times at the end of the day we get to see a whole lot of them here. But for many of us in Nigeria, most times we discover that a whole lot of persons don't pursue their goal of becoming doctors in US and Canada, not because they don't have that goal, but because they are not informed, all right? They don't understand what is required from them. They don't understand some of the processes, and they don't know that this is something that is actually very, very much doable. Let me just tell us a little of my story. Uh, Before I came to the US, I'm a resident doctor currently, and before I came to the US, I have practiced in Nigeria for roughly 10, 11 years. And as at then, there was this scare, people rarely attempt going for USMLE or going into Canada, not because it's something that is not doable, but the fact that many of us were not informed, and there was this, seeing it as something that is very difficult. It's something that is very expensive. Yeah, it can be a little bit expensive, but there was some information that a lot of us didn't have, and that was why some of us had to delay pursuing our vision of uh, coming over here to the US. Even though for me, I have a different pathway, I have a different story altogether, which I will still talk about. But I see a whole lot of persons not following or going through this pathway, not because they are not intelligent enough. I mean, I one of the things I tell everybody is that you don't need to be super smart to attempt USMLE. Once you average, once you're able to, I mean, you are passing your MBs, you are passing your exams as a medical student, and you are a medical doctor. I believe that you have what it takes to write this exam and pass it and come over and start practicing here. All right. But the problem we have, just like I said earlier, is that there are a lot of information that we don't have. It's popularly says that information is power. And uh, the more I become exposed, the more I come to understand the importance of information. What keeps you different from the next person that is ahead of you is a function of the information that the person has that you don't have. And that's actually why a lot of persons decide not to go through the USMLE because they don't have the necessary information. All right, so the essence of this meeting, obviously, we'll be having regular meetings, and there are a lot of things that we'll need to discuss about. And I know that a lot of us have questions. For some persons are yet to start, some have started, they're in the process, some are discouraged. There are a lot of things that we'll discuss along the line. But the essence or my goal in this our first meeting is to kind of let us understand what it takes and to also dispel the whole myths and the fear when it comes to trying USMLE. All right. People have a lot of fears. I saw somebody, some persons are scared of, oh, I had some references in medical school, will it affect me? I've graduated more than 15 years ago, will it affect me? Just some red flags here and there, and they are thinking that without that, with these my red flags, I may not be able to succeed in my journey. But the truth is that some of those things are really not correct. All right. Just like I told us, I mean, I was already 11 years before I marched here into the US. And currently in my program, amongst those that will be joining my program this July is also a Nigerian that I think he finished medical school, if I'm not mistaken, probably 1994 or 1998. Sorry, 2004 or 1998. Like he's way, way, way old medical graduates. Actually, he's a consultant, or rather, he was a consultant in Nigeria before he moved to the US. So all those things are not really an issue for some of us. So, but we'll still talk about some of those things along the line. So, just like I said earlier, this first meeting are for those of us that you don't know what USMLE is all about. You don't know where to start. You don't have the information of, okay, what do I need to do? How do I begin? Is it something that is doable and the rest? Okay. So, who am I? A little of my story. My name is Okoye Miracle or Oluebube. All right. Though most times, popularly, everybody calls me Miracle. I did my medical school in Nigeria at Nanda Azikiwe University. I finished in 2014. And after my medical school, after my NYSC, or rather, yeah, close to the end of my NYSC, I went back to obtain another degree in pharmacy. All right, so from medicine, I went to pharmacy. I know it's somehow weird, and I've gotten a lot of questions. People are asking, I mean, why? I mean, it's just a long story. Not like a long story, but I have my reasons around it. All right, so I went into pharmacy school also at Nanda Azikiwe, and I actually happened to graduate as the overall best in my faculty then in pharmacy school. Some of us might have seen the news those times online. I know it kind of trended that period. Sun newspaper, Vanguard, a lot of Nigeria bloggers carried it that period. The doctor that went into pharmacy school, it was all over the news. All right, but after my pharmacy school, or rather, when I was still in pharmacy school, I was practicing. I was doing some locum, most times weekends, nights. However, after my pharmacy school, or towards the end of my pharmacy school, I kind of opened a private practice in Nigeria. And from there, I did a couple of local jobs, also did a little of residency. That was like 1 or 2 years of residency. But it was in the process that I started, I was preparing for my USMLE. That was after my pharmacy school. I finished in 2020, 2021. The whole ASO strike, kind of delayed it to 2021. Then I started preparing for USMLE. From there, studied residency, and I matched in last year. Currently, I'm a PGY1, going to PGY2 in pediatrics, and here at University of Arkansas Medical Sciences. All right. So, why USMLE? That's usually where I like starting from. All right. Actually, I decided to pursue USMLE as a result of my discussion with a friend and a colleague. It's just like it was just a very funny incident. When I was in pharmacy school, I knew I wouldn't want to practice in Nigeria because of some reasons. However, I wasn't yet decided of if the country I'm going into. And one of those days, I was working in a private hospital. I was still in pharmacy school then. I met a junior colleague. He came to the hospital where I was working. He came to cover someone in that hospital. And we met at the cafeteria and we were discussing. And in the course of the discussion, he kind of told me that he's preparing for USMLE, and I when I sat down and discussed with him, he he made me understand that this was something that was easier than I thought. All right. Just like I told us initially, there is this fear of, okay, I had a very close friend of mine that when I was doing NYSC, we served in the same states, and he started preparing for USMLE. That was around 2015, 2016, because house job and the rest. And as at around 2020, 2021, he has not yet matched. So in my mind, I felt like, I mean, this thing is something that I should not even think about it. And I knew how it was both financially, mentally, physically, like it took a whole lot of him. And I'm like, I mean, if this guy did all these things and didn't match, I shouldn't bother myself about it. But when I sat down with this guy and we started discussing, started talking, he made me understand that this is actually something that is very, very easy, is something that is very much doable. And I saw a lot of our colleagues that are already in the process. And I mean, tell myself, I mean, if these people should be able to do it, it's something I can do. All right. Okay, I know that basically there are two basic things that are usually the issue when it comes to preparing for USMLE. All right. First of all, the finance. Some persons are like, yes, it's very expensive, I cannot afford it, and the rest. Secondly, is the things to read, the material they feel is difficult. Maybe might have heard stories of somebody that that was very, very bright and very, very intelligent and wrote it and didn't pass and all those things. Those things can kind of make one feel a little bit scared and the rest. But when I that discussion actually was what changed everything for me. It changed the narrative. It made me understand that it's something that is doable. It's something that I can do. And that information is what I'm here to share with some of us that want to pursue this pathway. All right. First of all, you don't need to be super smart to do USMLE. I know that most times people think that, I'm not like a bright student kind of in medical school. Probably you wrote some receipts, you repeated some classes, you feel that, I mean, you're not too bright, and because of that, you shouldn't. I mean, that's actually one big myth about USMLE. You don't need to be super smart. I mean, I believe that every doctor in Nigeria, for the fact that you got admission into medical school, you are you went through medical school, at least moved went from different levels to probably your clinical class, you graduate as a medical doctor. It's something that is actually very, very much doable. You don't need to be super smart. Actually, when you start come over and start practicing, you discover that some of your colleagues, they are not as an average medical doctor in Nigeria is actually, I mean, when it comes to has the information much more than a lot of them here, because just that the only difference is that for us, you are trying to also learn the way their medical system work. You're also trying to understand a lot of things. So the whole adjustment and the rest can be an issue. But truth is, that's why you hear about a lot of Nigerians, Africans coming over to the US, and they are doing extremely well. They are doing very well because, I mean, it's not really very difficult. It's not really that undoable. So first of all, you don't need to be super smart. If you're an average student, it's something that is actually doable. Number two is that whatever is your red flags, we call it red flag, year of graduation, references, a lot of things that may be working against you. Maybe you've tried before, you failed. Those can actually be handled. There is a you can act that it that doesn't mean that the journey has ended for you. All right. And why I'm saying this is because these are some of the major issues that people have. You'll be like, I mean, I've stayed for a very long time as a medical doctor. Why should I go ahead to apply? Why should I go ahead to do this? Those are really not an issue. All right. The next thing is, how does the process work? Just like I said earlier, this is more like an introduction, just to give us a background on what it entails, an overview. Then subsequently, we can talk about many, many other things, the materials you need to read for step one, how to go about step one. We'll talk about step two for those who are also doing their step two. We'll talk about application season. These are different things that we'll discuss, and even how to handle your red flags, how to get many interviews, how to tackle your interview. These are a lot of things that we'll discuss along the line. But the point for today is, how do I start? All right. First of all, USMLE has three steps. You have step one, step two, step three. Step one usually is now pass or fail. Okay. So meaning that you just pass or fail. There is no score attached to step one. Uh, I know that a lot of persons have, like, these days, some persons still fail step one, even though, and the reason is because before now, as at, I think that was in January 2021 was when step one stopped being scored. Then I started doing pass or fail. As at the time that you have a particular score, people try to study very hard so that their score will be good enough, or rather competitive enough to match. Unfortunately, after it was changed to pass or fail, I think more persons started failing it because people started becoming overconfident that, I mean, it's not pass or fail. I will always pass and the rest. But that doesn't mean that people now feel it more. No. Actually, the pass rate of step one is about, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me anywhere, but it should be around 90 something percent or 8 something percent, meaning that majority of persons pass step one. Okay. So you do your step one, then the next thing is to do your step two. Then usually before now, you have what we call step 2 CK and step 2 CS. All right. However, from 2020, since COVID, the step 2 CS was removed. CS means clinical station. All right, then CK means clinical knowledge. So how it's usually done is that after writing your step one, you write your step two CK, then you have to move over to the US to do your step two clinical station. For if you have written PLAB before, you know about the whole PLAB 2, that is like clinical station, that's more like for those of us in Nigeria in medical school, we call it long case, short case, examine these patients, do abdominal examination, do cardiovascular examination, examine this breast. That's the kind of way it looks like, or maybe counsel these patients, or those that are going for their part one or part two exam. That's how the CS looks like. To test your clinical skills, how you're able to interact with patients, how you're able to examine patients, how you're able to, some of those things. So before now, you have your step 2 CS, which you need to move over to the US to write. Luckily, during COVID, because of the whole restriction, travel ban, and the rest, step 2 CS was removed. And it was now OET was now introduced. OET means Occupational English Test. Because apart from testing your clinical skills, that's a for step 2 CS, they are also trying to check your communication skills. how you're able to communicate, discuss with patients and the rest, because I mean, language can also be an issue. And because of that, when the CS was removed, they introduced OET, which is like an English test. So it still will test your communication, your English, how you're able to interact. And but the good thing there was that you no longer need to move over to the US to write it. You can do your OET in your own country of residence. All right. Then you have your step three. For to be qualified to match into or to be qualified to apply for residency, you must at least have written your step one and passed it, written your step two and your OET. All right. Step three, you actually have the liberty of you can decide to write it before you come over to residency, or you can decide when I come over to residency. Most programs will tell you you must write your step three within your first year of residency. Some allows you to write it by second year. However, before you finish residency, you must have passed your step three. But some programs, when you come in, they'll be like, you should do it within a particular time. Let me say this, if you have questions, you can put it in the chat box so that I can be responding to them when I'm done. All right. Question regarding some of these things I'm talking about, go ahead and put it in the chat box. So most programs will tell you that you must write step three within the first year. However, some persons decide to, I mean, because step three is written here in the US, that's where the issue of, I mean, the cost of traveling, issue of getting visa and the rest. But for those in the United States, for those that have green card, for those that have the money, they can decide to do their step three before residency. It has its advantages and the rest. Okay. All right. So the good thing about these changes is that you don't need to leave Africa for you to match into residency in the US. You know why I said Africa? I didn't want to say Nigeria, is because for step one and step two CK, you write it in Ghana. Somebody will have, I know somebody will be asking, why not in Nigeria? Unfortunately, Nigeria happened to us. I mean, I learned about some things coming that before now they used to write it in Nigeria, but a lot of issues, irregularities. Nigeria was banned from being a center for step one and step two CK. So we all now have to go down to Ghana to write it. So that's why I said you don't need to leave Africa for you to match. Actually, my first time of coming to the US was when I matched into my program. So I've never been to the US before. I just came in the first time when I matched. So you don't need to have travel history. You don't need to have travel. I mean, you can just be wherever you are, write your exams, and you go ahead to match. So step one, step two CK, you write it in, let me say, in your home country. Then OET is written, if you're in Nigeria, there are a lot of centers. I know there is one in Lagos. I think there is one in Abuja. Then probably one in, I don't know if there's anyone in Enugu, but there are centers across Nigeria, if you're in Nigeria, for you to write OET. And actually, OET for me is actually very easy. I consider it far easier than IELTS. I know some of us that have tried IELTS before are usually scared of IELTS. How do I get 7.5, 7 to, for those that probably went through the UK pathway or that needed to write IELTS for one reason or the other. I mean, OET is far, far easier. I think it took me less than 2 weeks to prepare for my OET because at that point, I was preparing for my step two at the same time. So I just had to register for it and, just read it. And when it has its own scoring system separate, but it's really pretty easier to do OET. So you must do step one, do step two, CK, do your OET. After your OET, that's when you'll be given ECFMG certificates. That certificate is like you have the license to practice in the US. The way MDCN gives you certificate to practice in Nigeria, that's the same way that when you pass your step one, pass your step two CK, pass your OET, you will now use them to apply for ECFMG certificates. It's with that certificate that we now use to apply to programs for interviews. All right. I don't know if that's very clear. So that's how it works. And from interview, the rest. So that's usually how the whole process happens. That's when it comes to uh, the exams you need to write. Then coming to the registration, somebody is asking what is ECFMG registration like? All right. Coming to the registration, there are some processes that are required before. I mean, every step of the way, you need to do one registration or the other. All right. I think I wrote it down. First of all, before now, the body that coordinates the whole USMLE stuff for is ECFMG. But now, sometime last year, they transitioned to my Int Health. But during our own time, it was all ECFMG. So I'm already used to ECFMG than my Int Health. All right. So what happened is that before now, to get ECFMG number is free of charge. You can always apply to get a number. However, when they transitioned to my Int Health, they had some little adjustments. Some of the payments increased, some of the payments reduced, but the overall price required only changed by $50. So there were not much changes. It's almost pretty the same amount of money that it would have taken you 2 years ago that it will take you now. Unfortunately, I mean in dollars anyway, because I know that the exchange rate and everything has affected a whole lot of what. Excuse me. Okay, just be dropping your question. I'll be answering them as I talk. So, the my Int Health now they introduced some changes which just added an extra $50. So the first step is that you must create an account with them. Before, creating the account was free of charge. You get your ECFMG number, but now you need to pay like $100 to create the account. All right. Then after you create the account, you must now do your ECFMG certification. More like more like I call it verification to verify that you're a medical doctor. They verify your passport just to verify who you are, or even if you're a medical student or whatever, just to verify that you are in this school, you are this, you're a person, and the rest. And that's what qualifies you to apply for your step one. And that ECFMG verification also takes certain amount of money. uh, it used to be $160, now is $560. All right. Then uh, after that, I think you also have what we call credential verification. But the whole part of this process, just like I said, what used to be free, they added some money to it. However, step one used to be $1,020. Now they reduced it to $695. All right. Step two used to be almost similar. They also reduced it to $795. So at the end of the day, everything seems to balance up just an extra $50 extra that you have that they added to what it used to be. So it seems to balance up. So if you want to start the process, the first thing you need to do is to create my Int Health account. You can go to www.myinthealth.com or .org. You will see the official website. You create an account. It may require you to make certain payments. And you must first create the account, do the ECFMG certification, do the credential verification before you can be able to pay for your step one. And one mistake people do is that they wait. They'll be like, okay, let me wait a little and let me be reading for step one. When I'm now ready for step one, I can now start the process, forgetting the fact that the process takes time. Assuming you want to write step one in, let's say, July, that's the next 2 months. If you start ECFMG or my Int Health process today, it's almost not possible for you to meet the deadline of July. It's even most unlikely for you to meet the deadline of August because it takes a whole lot of process. That's the thing. So that's why I tell people you need to carry all of them along. And I don't consider anybody serious if you've not made some financial commitments. All right. You must not, I mean, you won't be, if you are still trying to claim it, just be reading. What shows that you are ready for this process is that you must commit yourself, you must start the process, all right, and start doing something about it. Unfortunately, most people, they be like, let me just be reading small, small, and be gathering money and the rest. I tell people that you must see this as an investment. If you don't see it as an investment, you will not be motivated enough to spend the money that is involved. For instance, you cannot decide to, okay, let me be saving half of my salary every month for this process. I mean, imagine paying $100, the next thing you are paying $560. As you are spending the money, you don't see any, it doesn't look like there is anything tangible you are spending the money on. More like you didn't buy a car, you didn't buy a land. It's not like you started doing, like, it's not something that is tangible. It's actually a huge investment. All right. The truth is that when it comes to the financial part of it, somebody asked if today's mentorship is on US. Yes, it's on US. We have before the end of the month, we have one for Canada. So I'm specifically talking about the US. All right. We still have plans to talk about Canada. We have a lot of doctors, attendings there in Canada that we are making arrangements for that. All right. So just like I was saying, I understand that for those of us that are in Nigeria or that will be paying with a lower currency, it may look very expensive. However, the truth is that when you succeed, in retrospect, even as a resident doctors here are not really paid so much relatively compared to what an attendings are paid. But the truth is that even as a resident doctor, uh, your 1 month salary without your expenses anyway, it will almost be more than your 1 year salary in Nigeria. That you can go online and browse it. I mean, that is the truth. So what I'm trying to say is that if if you are looking at the financial part of it and it's difficult and all those things, you need to understand that you it's something that you will easily get back. And that is to say, if there are anything you can do to get the money, maybe anything you need to sell to get the money and the rest. I would actually encourage the person to, or even if maybe borrowing money from family members, somebody to support and the rest, and have like a payment plan and the rest. It's really a worthwhile investment. Sincerely speaking, I feel when it comes to the financial aspect of it, there is nothing that can be compared when it comes to our medical practice with such an investment. That is to say, when spending the money, stop seeing it that you are you are you are using your life savings, you are that you don't have anything to show for your years of or months of practice or years of practice. You spent all the money on this and the rest. It's something that is worthwhile. However, I tell people I believe in something. I believe I'm a Christian, and I believe in that part of the scripture that says that a man that places his hands on the plow without looking back. I believe that if I want to pursue a particular thing, I must get it. I'm not looking back. And irrespective of whatever, I don't actually see limitations. And what I do is that I start making necessary commitments. I start making necessary investments that I need to get what I need to get. So I need us to understand, I need to say this and I need to spend some time talking about it. I know it can be expensive financially, but the investment is worthwhile. If it requires that you empty your savings, you have to reduce on your expenses, you have to even sell some things, you have to borrow some money, it's actually worth it. All right. Just be determined that this is what I want. I tell you the truth, it is very, very much doable. All right. So that is to say, uh, that financial aspect of it is something that you must see it that you are investing in your life. Just see it as an opportunity to invest in something that financially is going to pay you massively. If you put that money into lands or into any business, for me, I don't think there's any business. If you want to look at it from the business angle, I love business personally. I'm a business person. I have some businesses in Nigeria, if not till now. All right. I mean, if you look at it from the business angle of it, there is no investment that will pay you the dividend. So that's financially. All right. So I know it's really a little bit demanding. So you have to start the process alongside your reading. Don't start reading. I mean, you can start reading anyway, but if you have decided, my problem is that most times people are trying to, they are confused. So I had some friends those days, they are like, okay, let me do UK, and from now UK, I will now go to US. I will now practice in UK and raise some money and come to the US. Unfortunately, it seems that the UK pathway is becoming saturated, and I know some persons that have written PLAB 2, they are not able to get an offer there. So, and I think that's why a lot of persons now are thinking of Canada, and some persons are thinking of other places, Australia, and I mean, but believe you me, the US is still far from being saturated. I know that somebody asked a question about the ban. I don't know if I have the time to talk about it, but those things are not an issue. To be sincere and to be frank with you, it's never an issue, and it can never be an issue. Let me just answer that question. Even recently, the ban was lifted for medical doctors. I sent one, what is it called, on the general platform, the recent my health announcement. I mean, now it actually was lifted, meaning that these people that marched recently, they can go to US embassy in Nigeria, get their visa, and they come over to the US. And this was what I was telling a lot of persons when the issue of the ban started. Some persons were like, let me just, I mean, what's the essence of doing these things when uh, after doing these things, I will not get my visa. I told them that if you understand the way this system works, you will know that there is no how IMGs, even Nigerians, will not be needed in this place. And how did this start? When it was time for matching, a lot of Nigerians matched. People were thinking they will not match Nigerians, but the last match that happened in March, I know I've not talked about the whole matching process. Probably I'll try and summarize it so that we understand how the whole thing worked. But the last matching that happened in March, a lot of Nigerians matched. A lot. I have a lot of friends that matched, and they still, uh, I mean, they will still get their visa. So the issue of visa ban and all those things shouldn't be a problem. A medical doctor, if you understand that you are needed everywhere, actually, you are needed everywhere. And this system, the US system, actually appreciates the need of doctors. And that's why they seem to kind of accept, they want a lot of doctors. And, I think it's actually far from being saturated. It's still very far because now they need doctors to the extent that there are some, in many places, APRNs. APRNs means advanced practice registered nurse. These are nurses that do prescription. They act as doctors in quotes, more like they act like residents. There are some places that only APRNs man the place because there are no enough doctors in those places, meaning that they need you. I know recently we saw some states like Texas trying to create some exceptions for those that uh, have fellowship, or I know there was some state that were trying to relax their pathway a little bit so that more doctors will come. Uh, just to tell you that because the system needs you, because there is a very big need for doctors to the extent that some states are not able to meet it, and they don't mind getting people that didn't do their residency here to practice in their system. All right, so that shouldn't be an issue. Okay, just to also summarize how the process works, it talked about step one, step two, CK, OET. You get your certificates. We now start applying. All right. Usually, we have what we call the errors cycle. Okay. I know there are a lot of information. That's why I said it's something that will start picking up gradually. Errors cycle. Errors means electronics residency application system. It's a cycle. It usually starts in June and ends in May. Starts in June and ends in May of every year. So the errors of last year will be closing this month, and the errors of next year will be starting in June. All right. So when errors opens, you now buy your errors token. Buying errors token is you are telling them that I want to apply for residency that will start next year. So it opens in June, and when you now buy your token and start filling the whole necessary things that are involved, there are a lot of things involved anyway. However, around September, that's when you start applying. Okay, usually from the beginning of September, you can start applying. Towards the end of September, that's when different hospitals will start opening your applications. Then from October, November, December, January, that's when interviews happen. You start doing interviews, programs start calling you for interview and the rest. Excuse me. Then by February, that's what we call ranking. You kind of rank the programs that interviewed you. Ranking means you put this is my first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, and the rest, depending on the number of interviews that you have. Then by March, that's where the matching happen. But I don't need to bug us with the whole details since we are just starting the process. It's something that will pick along the line. All right. So I think that's it about an overview of the whole process of uh, USMLE. You have the registration part of it, you have the payment part of it. So I just want us to understand what it is like for those that are kind of not really like they're kind of wondering, okay, what does it entail? What do I need to do? And they just know that at least you've been able to understand that there are some registrations to do, then there are some studies to do, meaning that you have your step one, step two CK, OET, then plus or minus step three. I mean, I did my step three when I came started residency. I wrote my step three in December. My results came out in December. So, I mean, I was already in residence when I did my step three. However, you can decide to do it before you start residency. It has its advantages, such as giving you more focus when you are doing residency. It can influence the kind of visa that you come to the US with, and many other reasons. That is, I don't need to bother us with that. For those of us that are in step two subgroup, ERAS subgroup, that's where we can be discussing about this. But for those of us, I mean, let's just start with the whole process of how the whole USMLE goes. All right. I think I'll be ending it here, then take our questions. Then the next thing I will talk about, probably the next time, is we'll talk about step one. All right. What do I need to read? How does the whole thing? Somebody was talking about the preparatory materials. I think we'll leave it for the next time. Probably, let's say next week or next 2 weeks. But I just like I told us, this is a marathon, not a sprint. All right. It's not something that uh, happened suddenly out of, I mean, it's something that even when you start the process, okay, yes, there's a step one subgroup. If you've not joined the step one subgroup, I think you need to join. Just check under the community, you see step one, join step one. If you are not, if you have not written step one, you don't need to join step two. The group will always be there. All right. And I told the whole admins, if you are in step one group, or rather, if you are in step two group, will not accept you in step one group, because yeah, step two group means that you've written step two, you've written step one. So I saw some persons requesting to be part of all the groups. It doesn't, I mean, you don't need those information. Let's focus on what we need part time, and the group will always be open. It's something that, just like I told us, we want to carry people along, answer your questions, guide you through, provide you with information, the knowledge, this some of the things that even those that are doing their interview process by next year, or rather applying this year, will start organizing interviews. I have some sessions with them, more like to tell them how I was able to. I had a lot of interviews, how I was able to get my interviews with my red flags. Red flags like I was over 10 years of graduation and the rest. So, I mean, but if you've not started the process or you've not written your step one, just join only step one group so that we don't overcrowd the other group, and let's just do it step by step. The way in school, you have those that are in junior secondary, senior secondary, and the rest. So let's just keep it there. But there is step one group. If you are not there, join. But if I see that you are in step two or in step three group, and you are requesting for step one group, I mean, we may decide not to accept you there. All right, so let me take the questions that we'll have here. Then the next time we'll talk about step one. We'll take our time to discuss about step one, what we need to know, the materials, the registration. I mean, it's a whole talk on its own, and it's a whole talk on its own. I usually prefer not to bug us with a lot of information and the rest, but we'll take it a step at a time. The step one group, I think, is open. If it's not, I think we'll get it open today. Step one, step two, step three group is only the main group that will be locked, so that we don't bug us with a lot of questions and don't make the group so much overcrowded that people, uh, I mean, it can be so discomforting. I don't like groups that, like, especially people asking questions that are not relevant or posting certain things. So somebody asked about what is the cutoff mark for step two CK. Oh. What's happening? I think my laptop is forgot to plug it. Oh, so I need to. Somebody asked about the cutoff mark for step two CK. I think is around 200 and between 210 to 220. I'm not sure about the exact score, but actually for step two, you need to have a good score. So you should not be talking about cutoff mark. That's actually the only step now that it is very, very competitive. We'll still talk about the whole step. When we talk about step one, we'll talk about the whole steps and how competitive they are, the one you need to put your emphasis on. All right. I will need to end this meeting as soon as possible. I have another something coming up. All right. Are the are the interviews online? Yes, all the interviews are online. During COVID, it was removed. You no longer need to come to the US to do interviews. The way I'm talking with us, that's where you do your interview. You stay in your house, stay in a hotel, stay anywhere you want, and do your interviews. All right. What is the first step? Is it registration or prep? Where do we start from? I mean, I've said it, start both of them at the same time. If you leave this place, you can go and create my Int Health account. And I think you need $100 to create that one. So if you need to save the money, you save, then start planning for the preparation. If you've not started, in our next meeting, we'll talk about it. For step one, what is it like? It's an OBJ. It has like I think 280 questions. You write 40 blocks, uh, 8 blocks of 40 questions within, be 7 blocks of 40 questions within 8 hours. So it's like, it's very intensive actually. Uh, what if you already have an account with FSMG? If you have, you can always transition to my Int Health, especially if you paid. All right, so go to my Int Health. Once you put your details, automatically it transfers to from ECFNG to my from Oasis. Actually, the previous site is Oasis or ECFNG to my Int Health. Is the registration done after step one, step two, and OET or before? All right, you need to be verified by ECFMG. You now write your steps. After your steps, you now get the certificates. More like you write the verification is like writing your JAMB, your WAEC, and the rest. You now enter medical school and now pass your MBs. You now get your MDCN license. So the certificate is like the license to practice. With the license, you can now start going to hospitals now, in quotes, to start applying for residency, in quotes, but that's not really exactly how it is. Okay, is your clinical experience necessary before you'll be able to match? It's needed, but it's not mandatory. Okay, and there's ways around it. Okay, regarding the visa, I've answered it. Where am I based? In the US. I'm doing residency in University of Arkansas.